Hey Spencer, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Really good. Welcome to Provocateurs.
What a great name for a podcast.
I know, it's why I've got you on.
Oh.
So tell us about you. Who are you? What do you do?
I always find it hard to describe myself, really, because I'm kind of just, I see myself as just a very normal person, and other people have a picture of me that's different. But I'm a sales guy that built some businesses and made some money, and then realized when I thought I was amazing and probably very arrogant and cocky that I wasn't those things in reality, and my life changed a little bit, and I came down to earth and started to be a real human being after getting exposed to real people with real stories and real lives. And yeah, my life changed because of that.
So I was introduced to you as Mr. Dubai.
Wow.
And when I did a bit of background research on you, you're listed as one of the top 100 most influential people in Dubai. So I love your humility there, but why have you been given that title?
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. I've been here for 20 years, and so I know a lot of people, and I'm connected, and I've worked hard to build all of my business success here. And I'm known as a public figure, I suppose, to some degree, and I'm in the media, and I've got a podcast that seems to be quite popular here. And so they say I have some influence. I don't even have influence with my kids. So,
well, what is influence? What does that even mean? How you live day to day?
The power to persuade and influence people to think differently or be different.
And you say you came here 20 years ago?
19 years ago, actually. 19.
What brought you here?
Business. So I'd lived in 9 other countries before. This was my 10th country. And as I was building those different businesses around the world, we got the chance to buy a company here, which we did. And one of us needed to come and run it, and that was me. And so I moved from Amsterdam, where the weather was as bad as England, to here, and it was sunny every day, and that was good. And this place was just taking off. And so I kind of rode on the crest of that wave at the beginning and took advantage of it.
Amazing. And there's lots of like mixed opinions around Dubai and moving to Dubai. You're obviously really pro Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
What are the best parts of Dubai for you?
Well, let's just address, first of all, why I'm pro Dubai, because I know this place. I've lived here for 20 years, and I don't believe, I can't have an opinion on Costa Rica because I've never been there. It'd be foolish of me to have that type of opinion. Now, I can have an opinion on Sao Paulo in Brazil because I lived there for 4 years, but I can't have an opinion on, Libya because I've never been there. And I think a lot of people have opinions or are negative about Dubai when they've never been, or people that come to Dubai that don't make it, and they will then talk badly about it. And Dubai is one of those environments where there's no support for anybody that isn't prepared to roll their sleeves up and get stuck in. And so people do fail. And when people fail, who do they blame? They never blame themselves. They point their finger in a certain direction. And that's why people can be negative about the place. But let's look at what Dubai has to offer. So first of all, it's got one of the best airports in the world, with one of the best airlines in the world. You can travel directly to most countries in the world. Geographically, it's planted right in the middle of the world because you're 7 hours from Asia, you're 7 hours from Africa, you're 7 hours from Europe. And so it's geographically well placed. It's a 52-year-old country where the former Sheikh Zayed, who passed away, wanted to build an economy here when the oil ran out, and he put a huge amount of investment into doing that. And the leaders of the country, Sheikh Maktoum and his family and the other ruling families, decided that they wanted to make this the new best place for people to come and live and enjoy. And they've done exactly that. I mean, it's one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. It has a fantastic infrastructure. That's a fact. There's no income tax. That's a fact. It's very, very safe to live here. There's no security issues. If my daughter was walking home at 2:00 in the morning from wherever she was, I wouldn't worry about her safety in the way that I would in London or any other major city. And it's a place where people who want to be somebody and want to achieve something can be supported and encouraged and cheered on.
I really see that. And I think from my experience, I've recently started building business here and can see the difference between the UK and here really, really clearly. How would you say for someone who's looking at building business here, like what would you say is a marked difference between, let's say, the UK and here?
look, I after all my years in different countries, I realised that opportunities exist everywhere. And I think a lot of people want to blame where they live for why there aren't opportunities. London is a very wealthy city and there are loads of opportunities there. What's different about Dubai is that because it's new, everybody has the chance from a level playing field to become successful here. Because it's new, you haven't got that kind of legacy issues where certain businesses or industries are kind of monopolized by certain companies. We have an opportunity to be somebody, whatever you want to do. If you want to be in the hospitality industry, you want to be in the catering industry, you want to be in the tech industry, in finance, whatever it is, you've got equal a chance as anybody else to become successful. And that's why I think it's a place that's easy to be somebody and build a business.
Agreed. Yeah, I've definitely been experiencing that myself. And what I love that you said earlier was about meeting real people. And you, a few trips back, dragged me out at 6 o'clock in the morning, or was it even 5 o'clock in the morning, to go on a hike. Didn't know you could do that in Dubai, right? Yeah. Well, just outside of Dubai. But I met some of your real people there. What would you say? So are people important to you?
I think people should be important to everyone. And I think a lot of the time we don't spend our time with the right people. And so we should all focus on making sure we spend time with people with shared values and shared goals, and that care about the things that we care about. For me, humanity is important. And so I want to be around those types of people. And the thing about hiking in the desert, in the mountains, is that most people don't even realize there are mountains here. And that makes me laugh because I'm posting it every Saturday morning on social media as like, come hiking with me. But you come away from the noise of Dubai and your brain gets a chance to calm down and you get a chance to, walk and talk for a few hours with people and just have really honest conversations and learn about people's stories and forge relationships. And of course, not everyone's for everyone, but if you find the right people for you and you get enough time with them, then they can make you feel good about yourself. Yeah.
And I've learned a little bit about your journey growing up. So how you grew up and how maybe that shaped how you see the world now. Would you mind sharing a little bit on that?
Well, I've got my mum's family and my dad's family. My dad's family were all devout Christians. Grandfather was a preacher and missionaries. And on my mum's side, that's the complete opposite. They're both essentially working class people. My grandfather cycled from Yorkshire to London to propose to my grandmother, which I thought was quite a romantic thing to do. Cycled from Yorkshire to London, which is hundreds of miles. But it was, on my dad's side, it was very religious as a kid. There was Sunday school, there was church and stuff like that. And my dad's the only person in his family that kind of rebelled against that. My instincts to pull away from it came from my dad, I think. But whenever I was with my grandmother, who's deeply religious before she passed, she's one of very few people in the world that could sit and listen to you and just touch your hand or touch your arm and all of your troubles would go away. It would just be soothed by her. And so there must be something good about religion. It hasn't worked for me, but there must be something good about religion along the way that works for people.
Yeah. And would you say any of those values have impacted how you see the world now?
I don't like that people want to take a book that was written 2,000 years ago and use it to measure how people are morally right or wrong. I just don't think that makes any sense. The world was a different place. The world was a different place 100 years ago, let alone thousands of years ago. And if you sit and having a conversation with a regular family 100 years ago versus a regular family today, they're completely different worlds.
Yeah.
Yet 2,000 years ago, we want to still hold on to this book and use this book as the mantle for everything. And if you read all religious books, which I've dipped into, most religious books say the same things. Get past, some of the nonsense. And most religious books talk about being a good person, being a good human being, be kind, be considerate, treat people well, don't overthink things, trust, that the world's going to deliver something for you if you put the right energy into it. So most religious books do that, but it's when they get extreme with it. And again, of all religions, so I don't mean one or the other, it to me starts to become dangerous. And proof is in the pudding of religious wars that have taken place over, millennia.
Yeah. And you can almost take that one book and back up any point. if you wanted to. If you take a verse out of context or some words out of context, you can create division within the own religion itself, because we're trying to justify behavior with words. So how do you relate to like spirituality or morality now? Let's say, where do you get your moral sense of code from?
But it certainly doesn't come from a religious book. I think it comes from parents installing in you, their moral beliefs and you buying into them, and then growing up as an adult and seeing which parts of that you agree with and stick with and which parts you don't. I come from a working class family. My parents had nothing. They became hardworking, successful individuals on their own. They went and got divorced when I was 7, and Dad went overseas to work, and Mum stayed in the UK, and I split my time with them. But they had nothing and had to start again. And so I know that hard work is something that's important for everybody. Honesty and integrity is important for everybody. And nobody likes a liar, and nobody likes a cheat, and nobody likes a scammer, although many of them exist. And whilst it's sometimes really easy to judge them, sometimes I understand that some people are desperate. And so they might use tactics to be able to benefit their own situation. But for me, I've learned just treat people with kindness. Most problems in the world would change if everybody was just kind to one person every day. Like literally, if everybody on the planet was just kind to one person every day, the world would change immeasurably in a matter of a few days.
And would you say it's that simple to have that same moral code across all, if that was the one moral code that you chose?
Yeah, it was great, but governments don't want that.
No.
They want to divide us. And the great examples of that are what's happening in the United States. And they're trying to grab power. Everyone's fighting for power, which is really sad because nobody needs really to fight for power. And if everyone started to focus on living harmoniously and supporting their neighbour, then we'd end up again with a much better world. Now, the military industrial complex would probably go bust. Companies that make weapons would probably go bust, which would be a damn shame, all that kind of stuff. But again, I suppose what we also have to realize is that not everybody grows up with the right moral experience around them. And some people are born into anger and pain and born into venom and born into conquering and, belief systems like that. And so they just, replicate what they've grown up knowing.
And you're quite vocal now. I've seen you on social media and in some of the work that you do. It seems like you're intentional at encouraging others to have certain habits or ways of being. How was that a shift for you? Why do you do that?
When I was young, I just believed everyone should work hard. Now I'm older, I believe everyone should work on themselves and everyone should invest in themselves and everyone should work on their health. And whichever way that is, just work on your health. And that could be yoga, Pilates, football, going to the gym every morning, whatever it is, just work on yourself, because essentially we are our own car that we're driving. And I think that we need to take care of it. And I'm 53 years old and I'm going to try and do my best to take care of it as much as I can. Do I do it perfectly? Hell no, Have I got muffin tops on the side here? Yeah, of course I have. Am I as slim as I want to be? No. But I'm reasonably healthy. That's the first thing that I think is really important to kind of push out to everybody. Get out of bed, you lazy ass, is my kind of approach. Do something, move, eat well. Don't get drunk all the time. All this kind of stuff. But then with careers, I find that too many people have been indoctrinated into believing that it won't happen for them for some reason that's external to them. I didn't get a degree, so I can't be. I know I can't be a millionaire, billionaire, whatever it may be, because of some external reason. Yet we have such overwhelming evidence that it's possible for anyone and everyone. I mean, the evidence is ridiculous. You can't hide from it. It's just in your face, and you don't need a degree to become successful. You don't need to have gone to school to become successful. One of the most successful people I know can't read or write.
Wow.
He's one of the most successful people I know, and he can't read or write. And it's like we've always got these excuses that we put in front of us, and I don't want people to have those excuses. I want people to stop with the negative self-talk, stop with the nonsense, stop with repeating to themselves in the mirror every day, I'm not enough, okay? And start realizing that you are enough and you can be anything you want to be. Okay. It just takes you to make some decisions and then stick with it. And, there's a wonderful example of that, and that's diets. A diet works fantastically if you stick with it, but most people don't. And that's why the 1st of January every year, I'm going to lose 5 kilos, and this is my year, and blah, blah, blah. And what stops them? Persistence.
Consistency,
and discipline. And it gets a little bit difficult. I'm really hungry. I really just want that donut. Or, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to the gym. And it's like, you're just getting in your own way. And I can't buy into that. I can't buy into that victim mentality.
Was there moments because that you've got a clearly strong mindset, and if anyone follows you online, they'll see that you live by that. That's not just something you're talking about right now on a podcast. You actually live and breathe that. What was it that brought you to those places in your life where you made those decisions to live that way?
So I used to drink. And so I was the guy that was on the Friday night down the pub, in the bar, whatever it may be, with my vodka, Bacardi, gin, whatever it may be. And I thought that was fun. And then I had spinal surgery, and when I wasn't allowed to drink for 2 years because I was on strong medication, after the 2 years, it's like, right, let's go and have a drink. And everything tasted disgusting. Wine, beer, spirits, it just all tasted horrible. And I'm like, why would you drink this? I couldn't understand why anybody would drink it. My brain had obviously changed, and I've been like, this is just madness, And people say, oh yeah, have a drink, let your hair down, loosen up a little bit. And I'd be like, do I need to have a drink to be happy? Do I need to have a drink to be cheerful? Do I need to have a drink to have fun? And I realized that I didn't. Now that came on the back of obviously an operation, but people are sucked into this kind of like, no, it's been a hard day at work today, so I'm just going to have a glass of wine in front of the TV while I have my TV dinner watching Coronation Street, or my new Netflix box set that I'm going to binge watch till midnight. For me, I find it hard to understand how, as obvious as it is, people can't see how obvious it is.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. And I think I'm one of these who I'll have a drink to celebrate every now and again. For me, I'm not an all or nothing, but I've been in similar situations to you working in the nightlife industry. You see it a lot. You see the addictive tendency, the escapism that can happen through drinking, through drugs, through using substances, even Netflix, right? Do you think it's important, though, for young people to go through that journey? If I was 19 and I was sat here and I'd just been allowed to drink, what would you tell me? Would you tell me do it, experience it, or don't?
Donald Trump's never had a drink in his life.
Really?
Or smoked a cigarette. So, do we need to experience it? No, I don't think you need to experience it. It comes back down to the environment you put yourself into. Mm-hmm. We need to go out and find what career we want to have and what industry we want to work in, how we're going to make an impact on the world. We need to find that out, but we don't need to do that in a bar. Mm-hmm. We don't need to do that on ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, or whatever other drug that exists out there. That's not the way of finding anything out. But again, at the end of the day, it's culture. What was the environment you grew up in? Because if you grew up in a Muslim culture, you won't have drunk. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of Muslims never have a drink and never have. And didn't bother them, didn't cause them a problem. They've still gone on to be successful, semi-successful, and unsuccessful in equal measures. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily sure it matters. I believe that people need to have goals. Not that you need to have amazing, incredible, make money goals, but I believe we need to have things to work towards, because I think we need always a North Star. We need to have ambition to accomplish something, but we really need to enjoy the process as well, and the process is where the juice is for me, because as we all know, when you do achieve a goal, you're there and it's like, oh, that's that done then. Next. Yeah. But that journey to achieving it, that kind of, whatever it may be, that hustle, that grind, that sacrifice, that, teaching your kid to learn another language, you've got to make that commitment and enjoy that journey.
And I guess it's knowing what's important to you. Like yesterday I was reflecting on last year I lost my sister to cancer, and in that process she'd just given birth to my nephew, who was 6 months old at the time, now 18 months. I'm currently sat with you here in Dubai, building a new division of our company. And I'm going, what's my most important value here? Is it the growth of the company in this new market and giving time, energy and effort personally to it? Obviously, we've got a team on the floor who are doing that. Do I want to push harder? Because if I give that my energy, it will explode quicker. Or is there's a little boy at home who doesn't have a mum? I'm a key part of his life. I want to go home. So it's also like, I love what you said there about having a North Star. How would you describe that? Because for me, River, my nephew, is actually my North Star. He's my grounding place of going like, come home.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because building relationship with him for me is just as, if not more important at times than growth.
So what we do is we use something to justify something else. So I'll give you a good example of this. So I would literally go backwards and forwards to the UK after I moved to Dubai every other weekend. And by doing that, I was taking my responsibilities as a father seriously. And people would say, what a great dad you are. But compared to who? Compared to people that were seeing their kids every once, twice, every 3 months. Great dad. But great dad compared to the dad that read them a story every night. The one that sat down and taught them something. The one that had the sing along in the car on the way home from picking them up from a friend's house. The dad that was at every single football match or hockey match or whatever it may be. Arguably, I'm a shit dad. But the measurement will come from my daughters, not from me. They will tell you what kind of father I am. And they have every right because they are the daughters. My daughter Taylor moved here 6 months ago. And it's one of the most remarkable experiences ever. I love it. You know, she's 24 years old. And she lives with me, and she doesn't really want to live with me. She wants to live in her own place, you know. And I promised I'd buy her her own place, which she can have. But I'm trying to deflect it at the moment. It's like, oh, you don't need to move out just yet. You know, it's much easier if you stay here while you get yourself going. And I hope to God she stays, because she comes in from work of an evening and we have a cup of tea and we talk about her day. In the morning, I see her when she's going off to work and I say morning to her and wish her well for the day and give her a kiss on the forehead and send her down that path. And then I talk to her boss about how her day's going or her week's going or how she's progressed. And she's just near me. And that proximity is really powerful for me. So when you talk about your nephew, and you're building a business over here, you have to ask yourself a question. And the question is a big one. It's like, what for? You know, for money? Well, you can make money in the UK doing what you do. Just expand in the UK. You don't need to expand to Dubai. So what else could it be for? For some level of significance or recognition? Could it be for that? Well, is that more important to you than your nephew? And so this is the important thing to try and work out. What matters most? Because you're going to have 18 summers. And after 18 summers, he's going to be off with his mates. You're going to have 18 summers. And after 18 summers, he's going to be with a girl and going to say, Auntie Sarah, love you to bits.
Unless you're taking me to the clubs.
and a good example of that is my 21-year-old daughter, whose birthday is in the beginning of May. And I said, so I'm coming home. I'll come home on the 3rd and or 4th and we'll celebrate your birthday. Oh, I'll have to check with Steve. I'm like, who's Steve? Steve's the boyfriend. Well, I think Steve's got something planned for me. And I'm like, but I'm your father and I'm coming home. And she said, and he's my boyfriend and he's planned something for me. That's just real. Yeah. You know? And so how old is he now?
He's 18 months.
So now you have 16 and a half summers.
Yeah.
That's it. 16 and a half Christmases. If you're lucky. And you're going to spend some of your time here, which means you can spend less time with him. Imagine if setting up over here meant this business just blew up and it took off. Yeah. And it made you millions. And it meant you had to spend half of your time here. What's the most important thing? Now, when I was 25 years old, I would try and justify it, or 30, I would try and justify it because I need to do this, because I need to provide. But now I'm older, it's like, once I got the money, I realized the money didn't make a difference. Once I got to that place where I never needed to work again, I realized that all of these things that I've been trying to accumulate along the way and justify along the way weren't really that important. Well, I now know, after having big houses, I don't need a big house. I now know after buying expensive cars, I don't need expensive cars. I have a whole raft of expensive watches, but I wear my Garmin that my daughter's bought me because it means more to me than the expensive watches. And so I know that now. And I really wish younger people could be taught that earlier.
Absolutely.
Now, look, your situation's unusual in the grand scheme of things. A husband and wife couple that have their family together, or even without a family, just a husband and wife couple, if they're both ambitious and they want to grow and develop and support each other as they go, and that means they travel around the world to do that and have a great experience, then absolutely. But, for me, my parents are in their late 70s. They're in Cyprus. They're 3.5 hours away. They won't be around much longer. Okay. So should I really be going off on a holiday to do X, Y, and Z, to go and sit on a beach or a tropical island or a cruise liner somewhere, when actually the most precious thing for them, is to sit in the garden with them, Dad to turn the barbecue on, and for my mum to have a few glasses of wine while we recount life and put the world to rights. Yeah.
I agree. And I learnt it so hard. I learnt it the hard way last year in my own life. My sister, when we got her diagnosis of cancer, I was living in Ibiza. It didn't take me a second. And why was I out there? To build and explore for the business. It didn't take me a second to relocate my life all the way back to the UK. And you do it in a moment. You don't, often we talk a lot about values and what's important, work it all out on paper. When you live and you live tuned in, not rushing, but tuned into what truly matters, asking yourself questions on a daily, weekly basis, not overthinking, but being intentional. It was a no-brainer. Of course I was going to move my life back to the UK. And then again, now I'm here, I won't relocate here at all. It's an absolute no way. I'll come in and out and have team on the floor that will do what they do, because I know that's more important to me. And I hope that people don't have to learn it the hard ways.
But I think everyone does. I think you did.
I did, yeah.
So I think everyone needs that moment.
Yeah.
And it might be a health scare. It might be something significant in your life happens. All of a sudden, you just reassess everything in a moment. You're like, and you almost feel a bit stupid. Yeah. You do though, don't you?
It stops you. It pauses you.
What if right now I got a text message right this second from my dad saying your mum's had a heart attack? What would I do right now? I'd go straight to the airport and get on a plane.
Of course you would.
It wouldn't even be a conversation.
Doesn't matter what you've got in for the day.
Doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. That would be the first thing that I do. Okay. And then what would I do? I would stay with her, for as long as possible, until she'd recovered. I wouldn't just leave her, because that in that moment demonstrates what's important. If you go as your sister, and I've heard your story before, and it breaks my heart for you that you went through what you went through. It really does. I mean, I find it awful when people die so young. I had a client of mine here, very similar story. 31 years old, went home to Scotland for Christmas, and wasn't feeling well. And I've got all the text messages on my phone still where we were chatting away to each other. He goes, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to get treatment in the UK. And March the 3rd or 4th, he passed away.
Wow.
And so from Christmas, when I was playing football with him, to him dying 3 months later at 31 years old, it's just like, people, that's wrong. But the trouble is, we don't take the lessons from others. Your story of your sister getting cancer and passing away isn't a powerful enough story for somebody else to really rethink their life, because they'll still trudge on. And there are millions of people that live in Dubai away from their families, or overseas away from their families, that every day wake up and say, I'm doing it for my family. No, you're not. Doing it for you. And just be honest about that. You're doing it for your ego. You're doing it for your pride. You're doing it for your sense of achievement. You're doing it for your own financial security. That's what you're doing it for. Because even as Dubai has wonderful opportunities for people, I guarantee you, if you and I sat around a table together in London and came up with a business idea together with both of our energy and our personalities, I'm pretty sure we could make something of it.
100%. You're spot on. So do you think that's quite a masculine, because what you've just described, there being the provider, going out, doing it for your pride, for your ego. Do you think that's part of something that's innate to men more than women?
Well, traditional roles mean that women are, the caregivers and men are the providers. And women have fought for equality much to their own demise, in my opinion. You want equality? You sure? You sure? Because if you want equality, get down the drains and fix them. Go put the pylons up, lay the bricks, deal with the sewers, okay? Go and deal with the crap, okay? Shitty jobs, lay in the roads. If you want equality, have equality, please. But don't have equality that suits you. Don't have equality of the things that you like to have equality, you know? That's just nonsense. So as far as I'm concerned, if you take those roles, should the man be the provider? I believe a partnership, a husband and wife couple is a team, okay? And there's roles and responsibilities within that team. And that team relationship may have changed over the last 100 years. If I was in a relationship with somebody now, planning how that relationship should work, it's like, right, what are the rules? What are the roles? Who has to do what? Well, let's just put the roles on a piece of paper here and let's work out who's going to do what. Okay, so are you mowing the lawn or am I mowing the lawn? Okay, I'll mow the lawn. Okay, are you washing the cars? Okay, I'll wash the cars. Okay, so what are you doing? Oh, you're doing the washing. Okay, you're doing the washing. Who's preparing the food? We both cook. Okay, so 3 days a week you do it, 3 days a week I do it, 1 day a week we go out for dinner. Okay, that's clear. Right, let's talk about money here. I earn 10 times more than you. Because I earn 10 times more than you, should I pay 10 times more as a percentage of the mortgage? That's fair and reasonable. If I earn 10 times more than you and we're paying 50-50, then that's maybe a little bit unreasonable. You shouldn't be in a position where you're kept, okay? Because it's really dangerous for you. Because when you're kept, you have no control and you literally are a prisoner and you can't walk away. When you're kept, you have nothing. So it's really important. And I see all these women get into relationships and the man's the breadwinner and the woman doesn't make any money, doesn't have her own money. And so she has no power. And so then you look at the relationship is then somewhat impacted as the man's the provider and the wife's spending the money as well. She's busy wanting to buy Chanel and Dior and stuff. And he's like, hold on a minute, I'm working my ass off for this. And you're spending our money that way. So I really believe it should be a team. You know, we really should work together and in a husband and wife couple, understand what those responsibilities are. And who says that you do the drop-offs in the morning? Who says that? Maybe I want to do it 2 days a week. And why can't I? Oh, because I'm the man. Shut up. The world moved on. Okay? I take the kids to school on Thursday and Friday. You take them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That kind of stuff. It's like, let's discuss it. Let's agree it. And let's make sure that we're clear. And we both agree. Now, if you can agree on 80% of stuff and 20% of stuff you can't agree on, you're almost there. You're never going to agree on everything. But if you can with most of it, you're there.
So I love what you're saying there. So to circle back to what you said about quality, would you say that dynamic that you've just described has actually been a plus of equality? Because unlike you, like what you just said there, where you've seen lots of relationships where women are kept, I actually have a really different experience. No woman I know in my life is kept. So all of my friends are independent financially. And it means that I've witnessed them make very tactful and more thoughtful choices with relationships because they're weighing on a completely different set of thoughts and values. They're going, who do I want to be in this relationship? Is this person bringing out the best in me? How does our dynamic actually work? Are we aligned in how we want to spend our time together? Do we have shared common interests of, experiences and moments that we want to do together? Not, I should stay because he makes X, or there's no fear. What am I going to do if? Oh, how would this work?
When my parents got divorced and my mum had to start again, I was with a woman that had nothing, that had to build, and she had kids. So she's a single mum with kids and she had to build again. She worked 3 jobs. There's nothing more attractive to me than a driven, ambitious woman. There literally isn't. I find it really cool that someone's driven, ambitious, and wants to be somebody. The flip side of that, I struggle to cope with.
Yeah.
I struggle to cope with, and I don't like this idea that women feel that a man should provide. And you can say, oh well, the woman's at home with the kids. No, she's not at home with the kids. When they're a baby, and where we live, they've all got nannies anyway. No one's home with the kids. They've got nannies and cleaners and everything else. It's just like, that's part of the course. It's like, I'm at home with the kids. Well, I have to do the school run. Okay, but what do you do as soon as you drop the kids off? You go off to yoga or ladies' mornings and stuff like that. It's like, what? And I urge these women that live like that to understand something. Apart from your kids, what will you be remembered for? What difference will if you were made to the world going to yoga, Pilates, and paddle tennis and lunches and brunches and everything else? What, when you die, will they write on your headstone about you? Great mum, ... You've got to stand for something. And I believe it's really important for your own well-being. Okay, to sit and look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm proud of myself. I think that matters a lot and for everybody.
Yeah, no, I'm in absolute agreement with you. And it's part of my passion in work that actually we provide those opportunities for women to become financially stable and independent. And we've got so many stories of that. So I'm really of the same mindset. How do you think that's more, the way that you describe relationships working, do you think that's more of a modern way? Because what I've seen recently is there's a real resurgence in more traditional masculine views. How do you relate to them personally?
Well, you've got your Andrew Tates of the world and people like that think, you know, a woman should be his piece. I don't buy that. Yes, of course, there should be peace between both, his and hers. But again, with every relationship, understand who's doing what. Just be clear on it. When you see these guys say, you know, man provides, woman stays home, you know, does what he wants, when he wants, the way he wants. Well, the women that I know in my life and the mum that brought me up, my mum would be like, excuse me. I'm sorry, Mr. Tate, that won't be happening with us.
Mine too.
It just wouldn't be what it is. That's not happening. And so, you know, I understand where he's coming from, and I understand that women have made the biggest rod for their own backs with femininity and
feminism.
Feminism, sorry. They've made a rod for their backs, and all these feminists out there that say they're feminists, most of them are hypocrites. They really are hypocrites because they don't describe feminism. They describe something else. If you want equality, then you can have it, but it comes in every form. Don't ask for equality in some things but not others. I want everything to be equal. Okay, fine. Then do everything equal. Pay for half of the rent if you want to be equal. Pay for half of the meal if you want to be equal. We don't want you to be equal. We would like to take care of you sometimes. There's nothing more chivalrous than a man feeling good about holding the door open for a lady. There's nothing nicer than a woman saying, thank you so much for buying it for dinner tonight. That was lovely. You know, there's nothing nicer than, you know, offering to buy a dress for somebody or an item. You know, could I buy you a dress? Okay. Or buying a dress and giving it to you as a gift, you know, and seeing your face and being grateful you got it. It's when you see these other approaches of it needs to be equal, or that extreme aspect where the woman sits there expecting the man to give her everything. You know, we go out for dinner, well, you're paying, okay. And she's on OnlyFans making $100,000 a month, and he's, you know, working as a construction worker earning $5,000 a month, so he has to pay. It's like, I don't get this.
Yeah.
It's a logic. I'm old. Maybe I just don't understand it, but I'm old. And so my opinion at my age is, I suppose, different.
No, I'm totally with you on I do think feminism has a lot to answer for in a negative way. I think that the fight for female rights has almost, where is man's place? Like, what is it we're trying to achieve? Coming back to what you said, what is the purpose of this action? What are you actually fighting for on a broader scale? And is it achieving that? Taking a step back to actually reflect and say, is this creating the unity with another? If it's not creating unity with men, why are you still doing it? Why are you still beating down that drum? And what are you trying to fight for? And I love what I heard you say in a podcast that I listened to of yours, where you said that men shouldn't get married until they're 40. Can you tell me about that?
A couple of things. First of all, just to preface what I said before, I have 2 daughters that are adults. I never want them to rely on a man. I want them to be independent.
Right.
Okay, that's what I want for them. I don't want them to be in a position where they rely on a man. So for people out there, remember I have 2 daughters, and so I'm not some macho dude that's trying to put something down. I have 2 daughters. I don't believe men are mature enough and know enough about the world and themselves, and that's why I think they shouldn't get married until they're older. Now I know there's lots of successful marriages where people got married at 21 and yada yada yada, but we have to look at the data. And the vast majority, so over 50% of marriages end in divorce. Over 50% of marriages end in divorce. So we've got to understand why that happens. And that's because I believe a lot of the time people make bad decisions because they don't know themselves, or they don't know what they're getting into, or they don't understand the commitment. And so if men were not allowed to get married until they were 40, maybe they'd be marrying women there was a bigger age gap between, maybe 5 or 10 years age gap. Because I think women
mature
at 30, I think and overall, and that's a vast generalization because there's a load of immature women as well, but women at 30 and men at 40, I think if that makes more sense to me, because the woman's got through the experiences she needs to have and kind of found herself and established herself. The man's done that as well. And by 40, generally, they'd have built themselves some form of career and some element of security. And then they can bring a family up knowing much more. I got married at 26. Stupid. I got divorced at 31. And I was married for 5 years, all in all. And it was, a really bad decision for both of us. And making that bad decision didn't help me. It crippled me financially at the time. After 5 years of being married, I gave most of what I ever made away. And that's because I remember walking down the aisle thinking, am I doing the right thing here? Because I didn't know. And I was kind of ushered along by the enthusiastic audience that were there and the parents that were encouraging you to make these types of decisions and grow up, settle down, have a family, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think you can do all of that. But you have to consider life expectancy was so much. 100 years ago, people didn't live as long. 200 years ago, they lived even less. So, there's a good chance most people being born today will live to 100 or more. So having a family at 40 still means 60 years, isn't it?
That's a really great point. So would you be saying to your daughters they shouldn't even consider marriage till they're 40?
Hell no. Not 40, 30.
30, but yeah. They're partners.
I mean, I had a really interesting situation. My youngest, who's 21, said to me, "Oh, Dad, I've got a new boyfriend. Can I tell you about him?" I'm like, "I don't want to know." I said, "You've only been seeing him for a couple of months. It's not really relevant. When it's serious, then we'll have a conversation." And I flew back to Dubai, and my eldest, Taylor, said to me, "Katie's got a new boyfriend." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I've heard, yeah." She said, "He's 35. And I was like, "Excuse me? What do you mean he's 35? She's 21. She goes, "Yeah, I know, he's 35. I'm like, "He's 35. And she's 21. So I messaged her. I said, "Hey," because I call her Poochie. "Hey, Poochie, that new boyfriend you've got, how old is he?" She said 35. And I was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Dad, you told me you weren't interested. You didn't want to know." Which was right.
Fair.
So it came as a bit of a shock to me. But I suppose what is age really? All it is varying levels of maturity for people. And we've all made enough. I think when you're 40 or when you're 30 as a woman, you've made enough bad decisions to know what a good decision is.
You've made enough interesting decisions.
Interesting.
I'm like, that was an interesting season. I try not to use the word bad. Interesting.
I bet you've had a few of those.
But a few interesting situations. Seasons, yeah. Moments in life. Yeah.
I'm not going to make eye contact with you now as the tumbleweed goes through.
So what was the biggest thing you learned, or some of the biggest lessons from being divorced and then remarrying, like about relationships and what successful relationships look like or need to have as components?
Okay, so I believe a successful relationship, it's critical that you have shared values. I think that is the number one aspect. You must care about the same things. If you don't, then there's a disinterest in each other's feelings and emotions, and when there's a disinterest in that can lead to something pulling apart quite easily. I want everybody to And this is why I think this whole kind of Indian arranged marriage thing, although when I was young, I used to laugh at it, but now I understand it better. It makes a lot of sense. So you think about this. Let's say you and I are both single, okay? We meet each other in a whatever environment, a networking event, and we start dating, and 3 years later we get engaged. So let's just say that happens. Who has done the research on you to find out whether you're good for me? And who has done the research on me to find out whether I'm good for you? No one. We're going by our own instincts, our own intuition, our own self-perceived knowledge of being a good judge of character. Okay, I'm a good judge of character. And you say that when you're young. As you get older, you say, I'm a terrible judge of character. I get it wrong. But then you see this Indian arranged marriage thing. And now you've got, so if it was my family, it would be my mum and my dad and my sisters and my step-parents. And maybe, no, not because I've got kids, but those people, the sisters and the step-parents and the parents would be literally my team of people that were going to find somebody for me that they know I would like and would have the same values. When you think about that for a minute, if you've got a team of people behind you doing some research and suggesting people to, this person's good for these reasons, Spence. Sarah, this person's good for these reasons. What do you think? No, I don't like that. But okay, right, let's go to the next one. I believe having a team around you to help you choose the right person and a mother who knows you best to go, not him.
Yeah.
Not that one. Okay. Or dad to go, I'm not entirely sure he's the right guy for you, Sarah. I think that would be awesome. And that's why I think we see less divorces in India than we do in the Western world.
Yeah.
Now, people will argue those relationships stay for a longer time and maybe they lose some of their energy. But I'd much rather marry someone knowing that everyone thought that person was right for me. Because what is a relationship at the beginning anyway? It's infatuation. People think it's love. I'm in love. I fell in love with her. How long have you been seeing her? 3 weeks. You didn't fall in love with anyone.
No.
You got swept away by your excitement and your infatuation. And that probably lasts a couple of years in reality. We can say it's love, but really? Because, we're still obsessed with how hot they are and what stuff we're going to do. And, once you've gone down the road a few years and you get past all that kind of stuff and you see what they look like without the makeup on and you see bed hair and all that kind of stuff and how they growl and how they argue and how they complain and how they eat. There's another thing, sat down. He's in there.
Brilliant.
You've been in there. Unbelievable. You sat there looking in their eyes. You're just like, oh, God. Or holding the knife and fork like that. Ooh. One of my pet hates. How tidy, how messy they are, or how they treat a traffic warden, or how they look at a child on the street, or how they look at an animal that's mistreated. All this kind of stuff comes out over time. Having a team behind me, I think, makes a whole load of sense because I don't think we can do it on our own effectively all the time.
I love what you're saying there because what I'm hearing is how real can you be, how quickly as well, and not just fall in love with a romantic ideal. And sometimes the whole dating world can be this whole facade. You have these heightened experiences of fun, adventure, this, that, but you're not actually seeing someone in the day to day in the real life kind of moments. I know for myself, I was engaged for only 6 weeks. I broke it off and it was not the right person at all. But I remember speaking to my family about it afterwards and I'm laughing inside as you're saying that because afterwards they've all said, that was the worst one you had. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you sit me down and be like, Sarah, this is not your human? And afterwards we reflected on that, like, because we wanted you to do what felt right for you and whatever else. But hearing you say this, I'm like, actually, they could have been in my corner before that moment going, and I worked, all worked out right as it should have anyway, because I could see it for myself and broke off the engagement. But in those moments, actually, who's in your corner and who's reminding you of who you are? And I think what that comes down to as well is how close are you to your family or how close are you to have people around you that you've actually let speak in on that level so they can be good judges for you.
But that's when those countries that have that close family unit, demonstrate why that's important, you know. And in the West, we're so critical of everything, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We're just so critical. We judge everything outside, you know. People coming to the Middle East at the moment from the West, oh, there's a war over there. It's like judging stuff, you know? And then they'll judge different communities that are different. I think a lot of the time we should stop with what's different and we should focus on what's similar. And if we spent our time looking at different nations and different parts of the world and understanding what's similar, you'd actually find that we've got a lot more in common than we think we have. And a lot of the time I try and do my best to focus on understanding that what we actually want, all of us want, in reality, is identical. We all want to live in a safe environment. We all want to be happy. We want to have a family that we can love and that can love us. We want to have a job that we can enjoy. Okay, we all actually want the same things. We all want to be financially secure. Who wants anything different? And now, of course, there's the odd megalomaniac that wants to take on the world and, you know, shake the globe and get the cash out of it, of course. But the vast majority of people, no matter where you're from, what language you speak, what your background is, the vast majority of people want exactly the same thing. And it's like, why are we focusing on what's different about us? You take the Republicans and the Democrats in America, the people that have been divided to vote for Republican or a Democrat. All of those people that are going to vote actually all want the same things. They don't want anything different. In the UK, whether you're Labour, Liberal or you're Conservative, you actually want the same things. You want low taxes, great opportunities, life, safe environment. You all want the same things. We want kids that we can be proud of. It's like, why do we keep focusing on this difference all the time? You know, someone's a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian. What do they want? Oh, guess what? The same things. One person goes to church, a Christian goes to church on a Sunday, a Catholic goes to mass on a Saturday night, a Muslim prays 5 times a day. It's kind of like, oh, right, so we're all praying to a book, okay, about a belief system that we've got about being a better person. What's all this effort to try and to make us different? Someone wears a dish dash, someone wears a T-shirt.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't get it. You know, I don't get this we're different because I'm better than you because I'm this and you're not as good as me because you're that. It's just like someone's an ambulance driver and I'm an entrepreneur. And why am I a better person? I'm not. That person saves people's lives. I hope to inspire people to have a better life. An ambulance driver, me, no competition. They are doing more for society and humanity than I am.
Yeah, I hear that. And so coming back to relationships then, with having shared values, isn't part of love actually having difference and learning how to accept and still love that person despite the difference?
So love in my mind is you have, let's say there's 10 values. You've got to agree on 8 of them.
Great.
And if there's 2 that you don't agree on, then that's where that's the difference. And that's where you learn to compromise and you learn to learn from each other, don't you? And learn to accept maybe there's a different way of thinking that you've experienced or they've experienced that you need to learn about. But the vast majority have got to be the same. Otherwise, it's just a constant conflict.
Yeah.
You know, it's constant conflict. Why would you want that?
No, totally agree. So what about so a lot of romances or happen in the workplace, happen between people that have kind of experience, they've got this shared common place. What do you think about workplace romances?
So back in the olden days, before we had the internet and whatnot, I think the number in the UK was something like 37% of relationships started in the office.
37?
Yeah.
In the UK?
Back in the 90s and the 80s. The number was really high. But you think about it, if you spend most of your day at work and you live in a small community, where do you meet new people? Now, it's different now because everyone's on Tinder and Match or whatever these sites are called, you know, trying to find their perfect partner, okay, or their one-night stand or whatever it might be. And so they've got a different way of finding it. You know, I remember when I was 20 years old walking into a bar and staring at a girl for 3 hours. You know? Just stared at her until eventually I had the courage to go and say hi.
3 hours.
3 hours. I dated her for 2 years, but I didn't have the courage. She was stunning. Long brown hair, big brown eyes, just beautiful. Sarah Newton. And apart from a few crosswords we had at the beginning of the conversation, we dated. But but that's how it was. So you'd either have to be drunk on the dance floor at the slow songs at the end. You'd have to try and eye someone up, which was all difficult, or when you go to work every day, there's all these people there that you talk to,
Yeah.
you interact with, you have conversations with at the coffee machine, over an invoice, or at reception, or while you're dealing with some departmental event. And so I would never meet you, for example. But if I met you in the office, then it'd be easy to get to you because someone would say, "Oh, this is Sarah. Hi, Sarah. I'm Spencer. Sarah works in accounts. What does Spencer do? Spencer works in sales. Okay, Sarah's accounts. Spencer. Sarah makes sure that your clients pay their money. Okay, look after Sarah. Okay, got it. Understood, boss. I go and buy my bacon sandwich on a Monday morning. I better get Sarah one on a Monday morning. Make sure she gets the money in for the clients. There you go, Sarah. There's nothing. It's completely innocuous. There's nothing there apart from me thinking, I've got to look after Sarah because she's doing something to help the business. Sarah and Spencer then go out to the company event 3 months later, okay, and we get on really well. We already know each other, but we've done this event now. We've got on famously, and then another thing happens, and then one day Sarah's looking at me across the office, and it's like, should I maybe ask her out for a coffee or lunch or something? And I don't know at that stage. Well, I've got a chance to get to know that Sarah. You in a bar? I've no idea. You could be the worst person on the planet. You could be the best, but I'd still have no idea. And would I want to risk it? Maybe not.
And what about people who fuck their boss? Or having affairs with their bosses?
Wow.
Because that could happen, right?
I think it happens a lot.
What's your thoughts on that? Good, bad?
I think it's dangerous. Okay, the boss thing I think is dangerous because what are they doing it for? What's the boss doing it for, and what's the person that wants to have sex with their boss doing it for? That's just some crazy physical attraction or some way of trying to gain some power. I don't think it's ethical to do that. I don't think it's ethical. And I've been fortunate, my PA has worked with me, Sarah, now for 16 years. And my dad said to me when I was young, he said, when you first get your first secretary, because it was a secretary, when you get your first secretary, make sure she's ugly.
That's the thing. I've had lots of male business owners say that they purposely pick an ugly secretary.
Sarah's very beautiful, but I just, that's a no-no. My business partner Daniel and I, all these things are no-nos. Have I made mistakes over the years as a youngster? Yeah, absolutely. Who didn't? And we can sit down and say, ethically this and ethically that. I've got high moral values. No, when you're young, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. And you get seduced by stuff, and that kind of stuff happens. But a boss shouldn't be doing that to his employees. I think.
So you think keep it clean in the workplace on the power on that
from the boss's point of view? Yeah, I think absolutely. I think from if you and I are interdepartmental and we're both single people, we're both 25 years old, I think that's a different scenario. Some people say you should never do it, and I agree. Nowadays there's so many other outlets, but you go back to the 80s and 90s where I come from, it was very normal. When you joined a company, you knew, Pauline and James, they're married. Okay, and Alan and Sarah, well, they're together, they're dating, and, Phil and her over there, I don't know what her name, but she works in packing, they're together. So, that was very, very normal in my world.
And obviously, now we've got a whole workforce of people that are global, that are working from home. We've got the rise of dating apps and stuff like that. Do you think that's a good thing for our dating world? Everything you've just described there is so human. It's so like you saw someone in the bar, you stared at her for 3 hours. Like, oh my God,
London,
that's amazing. That's awesome, right? That's real. It's like that real connection that you're fostering person to person. In the world that you see now, do you think it's positive the way that we're not experiencing that straight away?
I think dating apps are really awful. I don't think they're healthy for anyone. I really don't. I understand why people need them. But the interesting thing about dating apps is that most people talk negatively about them, that use them. So they use them, but they talk negatively about them. Now, don't get me wrong, there's people that have met on Tinder that have got married, so there's obviously some positive outcomes too. But when I talk to single women and I say, what dating apps do you use? Well, I go hiking, I've got single women with me. We laugh and joke about that kind of stuff. They'll always tell me they're useless because the wrong kind of men are on there. Yeah. But when you speak to a man about it, they'll tell you the wrong kind of women are on there.
Interesting.
And so no one tends to find what they're looking for, or maybe they do, but in my experience, that's different. But I don't think that, I'm not saying that if you live in a village and the village has got 150 people and you don't get much time out and you want to meet new people, I think that maybe these types of things matter. But I believe that joining clubs and communities and societies are better for you because you get to know people before you even have to, go on a date.
And the idea of what you're saying there, coming back to the tribe that screen your people, it's like you've got those and the values that you share. If you're part of a community, culture or club, you're sharing similar interests straight away. So you've kind of screened out half those people because you're there, you're spending time in those places. And do you think the modern world supports that? And the modern, let's say the modern Western world, like with, people driving for success in all these different things, are they valuing other parts of their life, and so then connecting to people that are actually like them on a outside of the work level?
Yes and no. I mean, the answer is there are some that do and some that don't. I think that it all depends on your appetite for life, doesn't it?
I love that. So Spencer, the show is called Provocateurs. Would you class yourself as a provocative person in any area of life? And if so, what is it that you like to kind of be a little bit provocative and vocal about?
Well, I did a video the other day after the rains and the floods in Dubai. And in that video that I made is the comments from thousands. I mean, it was shared 7,500 times.
Oh, wow.
It blew up massively.
Tell us about what was the content of the video? I've watched it, but in case people didn't.
So I made a video basically saying, let's get the facts straight. All right. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. Okay. This is the worst rainfall in 75 years. The country's only 52 years old. The government have responded remarkably. Dubai, we live in an environment where we don't pay income tax. We live safely, we live securely, and we have a great life. But I said it kind of like in a tense way. And I basically said, shut up whinging and moaning. Shut up whining from overseas. If you've not been to Dubai, then you've got no position to judge. And if you've been to Dubai, okay, you can judge, but understand you get potholes in the UK on the roads and you pay taxes and they don't get filled in. We have a swift response to what's happened. And a good example of that on the back of that is every property developer has offered to fix everybody's homes for them. There are hundreds of thousands of properties here. That's billions and billions of dollars.
I was going to say, how much will that cost?
Billions and billions of dollars. A new sewerage system was just announced the other day. Just announced today. Banks are giving people 6 months leeway on their car loans, on their personal loans, so that they can deal with this situation. This country moves very swiftly, but the response was from part of the community was "Yay, well, Spencer." Then from overseas, fuck you and all that kind of stuff. So clearly, it wound some people up. But I a couple of examples that have happened in my life. I made a video once on my balcony at my house. And somebody wrote under, "You don't even live on the Palm Jumeirah, you effing C, you F this. Who the effing hell do you think you are, you useless liar, scumbag?" Yeah, something like that. And then
nice.
the following evening, I went for a walk with one of my neighbours, Annika, and we go for a walk every Friday evening. We went for this walk, and this guy came walking towards us on our street, and we kind of separated as he went between us. And he turned around and he said, "Are you Spencer Lodge?" And I thought he'd recognise me on social media. I'm like, "Yeah, I am Spencer. What's your name?" He said, "My name's John." I said, "Nice to meet you, John." He said, "Do you live on this street?" I said, "Yeah, my house is there." He went, "I owe you an apology." He said, "I had a bit too much whiskey yesterday and I saw your video and I wrote something rude about you and I want to say sorry."
Wow.
So that happened. Another situation happened where a guy wrote a load of bad stuff about me and I just responded. I said, "Are you all right?" And he said, "I'm so sorry. I've never trolled anyone before. I've been sat on the toilet for the last half an hour trying to delete this. I will never, I promise you, if you delete this for me, I'll never ever troll again anyone ever." And I just went, "No." So I don't mind getting someone's back up. I don't mind poking people, hitting buttons. I don't mind stirring it up. So when you use the word provocative, first of all, I have no filter. So I say what's exactly on my mind. I don't have the capacity to stop and think about it. It's already out, yeah? As you're my
I do know this about you.
And everyone else that knows me knows that. So because of that, I say stuff that's provocative, not because I necessarily think it's provocative. Do you want me to give you an example?
Please.
Super, because I'm obviously clearly, my mum is the maker of me. We went for dinner with some friends in Dubai, and those friends live in Cyprus. The mum lives in Cyprus, as my mum does. And we thought they'd have them for dinner together because the mums could get to know each other. We went for dinner. Yeah, I've told you this.
Oh, you've told me this, and this I'm laughing.
Everyone else is going to know. So we sat at this dinner, and the lady's a proud Egyptian, and she said to my mum, "Have you been to Egypt?" And my mum said, "Yes, I've been twice, thank you." And she said, "Well, where have you been?" She said, "I've been to Cairo once, and I've been to Hurghada." And she goes, "What did you think of my fantastic country?" And my mum went, "It's a shithole." And I wouldn't go back there. It's filthy dirty. And as she said it, the whole of the table just went quiet. And I went into shock thinking, how dare you say something like that, mother? So I look across at my mum with that stare. And my mum went, "What? It is a shithole." Now, she's an old lady, so I'll forgive her. But the fact is, she just says what's on her mind, what she truly believes. She's not going to sit and lie and embellish something. I think when it comes to being provocative, I say what's on my mind, and if you don't like it and it winds you up, that's on you, not on me. And another powerful thing my mum taught me to say over and over again is, what you think of me is none of my business. And I said it so many times, that I don't care what you think of me. So if you want to retaliate with what I'm saying, then please feel free, go ahead. Do I ever intend to upset anybody? Never. Do I ever intend to hurt anyone's feelings? Never. Okay, I never have an intention to do anything. Do I like to tease and joke? Okay, yes, I do. And that's part of my character. And I hope people can, appreciate that for what it is and understand that I never, ever would intentionally try and offend somebody. But also remember, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
I love that. Love those examples that you've given, and love what you said about intent, because I think being provocative is a byproduct of being real, maybe, rather than actually stepping out to say, I'm going to push the button there because I can. Love it. Spencer, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on Provocateurs. Thank you. Lots of laughs, as I knew there would be, and lots of real talk. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.